get the lesson. Rod, can you send Jim Spilson the
I
Zoom
got it.
link? Thanks.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to do two things here at once. So look, today I had class. As many of you know, Rod and I teach as an adjunct professor. Never thought I would be that in my life. We teach a class at the private institute here in Montana for high schoolers. It's on business and being an entrepreneur slash intrapreneur. And I asked everybody to fill out a feedback form. And the reason why I did that was twofold is at church this weekend, our pastor actually literally stopped the sermon. And he said, okay, take your phone, scan the QR code in front of you, or get a piece of paper that they're handing out to do a survey about what you thought about the church. I thought, wow, never been at a church that did that before. And it was really good, relevant business questions. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Where are we going? What do you get out of this? So I did that for my students today. And it was served as a nice reminder. It doesn't matter how long you've been around in business, how good you think you are. It never hurts to reach down and ask your employees or your partners or the people around you how you're doing, how you can do better, what will improve your relationship and the work you're doing together. So I did that today. And one of the feedbacks that I received in a short order was less lectures and more interactions. And what I'd like to see from this group is more questions coming our way. We record a weekly podcast, sometimes two, and great topics. And we've openly asked every week, hey, what questions do you have? What can we help you with? You're only going to be as good as the questions you ask. And we are here to answer those questions, whether that's privately on DMs or emails, now through the back end of Y.E.S on our new platform, or in these calls. So come prepared with questions. Let us help take you to the next level. Don't sit back. I've talked about not being a member. I want you to be a participant so that we can give you valuable feedback and get you to where you want to be. I can't extract the data out of you, so I have to ask and ask and ask, and we want to help and help and help. And I do know that some people on these calls have asked, and we were thrilled to help. And it's really fun to see people succeed. All right, tonight's lesson is on the small wins. And we have talked around this subject, not titled just that, but we've talked about the importance of stacking wins. And, sometimes it's important to revisit what that looks like in your life. I love David Goggins has a quote. It says, become a disciple of discipline. And I think that discipline comes from stacking small wins, creating habits that are important. And one of the things that we really wanted to do on the platform is have 5 critical tasks. So when you get on that thing, you can look at daily tasks, and in there you'll find 5 critical tasks. And the idea is that you're encouraged to do those every day. And these weren't just random. It's actually under the goals section. Hit tasks, and you're going to see what they are. These weren't just random. These are things that have worked for us. They work for others. They're things that you're going to read in leadership books often. And this is a way that you can start developing some discipline behind your day and having some small wins. Now, you might think, well, what does making my bed have to do with winning in business? Well, what it has to do is it starts to gain your momentum in the right direction. That's why we've always talked about, when you wake up in the morning, write down the things that you're grateful for. So on our 5 critical tasks, the first thing is gratitude. Click the box. The next thing, review your goals for the day. Okay, see what it is that you have to accomplish. Check the box. Get some exercise. Check the box, right? Help somebody. Check the box. And visualize or read 10 pages of a good book, something that you'll learn from. Now, these are all easy things that you can do to collect some wins for the day to set you in the right direction. Just as my own personal example, I got up at 5 today. Doesn't happen all the time, but when you're on 75 hard, that's what's required. I needed to get up, get my reading in, get my exercise in, then get my breakfast in, and then get the kids up and start my real day. And what I found is when I can start my day that way, all of a sudden I've collected enough wins. By the time those kids get up, I'm in a good mood. I've had some coffee. I've got my blood flowing. I've read something. I'm ready to give them everything I got to be a good dad, to get their day started. Imagine, or I can just imagine, if I had to go to the office. I work from home, so it's not like I'm around my peers. If I had to go to the office, how that would be infectious at the office. All of a sudden I get there and I'm full of energy and vigor because I've started my wins for the day. These things are so critical for you to think about, because if you're not doing this, you can be doing the opposite, right? And that's starting in a negative state of mind. Maybe you've looked at your emails first thing and it's taking you in a downward spiral. So define your day with a win. Do your 5 critical tasks, or at least get them started. Now, you don't have to do just the tasks that we have on the Y.E.S back end. It's our gamification there. By the way, it'll tally up your score, how well you're doing. No cheaters. Use some integrity with it. It'll tally up your score, how well you're doing, and you can compare yourself to how other people are doing on their critical tasks. So it's something kind of fun. There's a score and a leaderboard and all that good stuff. And who knows, there might be some rewards somewhere down there. Okay. Now, there was a YouTube video floating around about a general in the Navy and our captain, high level ranking official, talking about how important it is to wake up and make your bed. Your life can change by making your bed. And this is very similar to that. I'll find that video. I'll post it up on my feed here on Y.E.S, and you can watch it. But, you know, his point, and this was part of a graduation speech for some college grads, is if you can start your day doing something productive, that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And we've talked about that before. So define your day with a win, get up early, get up, be healthy, all those things. Okay. So small wins, one bite at a time. We've also used that phrase before. The only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Chip away at it. The problem that I see so often in business is that we're chasing that big thing. Everybody wants to go straight for the gut, right? Let's get the big thing done. And you forget about all the small things on the way. And that goes back to starting your day with some wins, and do that as well in business. You know, sometimes it's not fun to write the business plan or write the marketing plan or draft the email list, you know, what we're going to say for the next 30 days on Instagram. You know, those seem like small things, like, well, how am I going to get paid? Well, your consistency over time is how you're going to get paid. That consistency builds up each and every day. I've told the story before. When I raised $5 million in capital for my tequila company, every night I got home from work, from my real job, my 60, 70-hour a week job, I eat my dinner, settled in for the night with the family. And then at 10 o'clock, I started writing that business plan. You know, it was 30 minutes or maybe an hour a day. And 6 months later, finally I had a business plan worthy enough to go raise the money. Took a lot of patience and energy and, you know, not doing what I didn't want to do. But I didn't forget about the small thing. And that was how important the business plan was, to raise the money to do the big thing. So one bite at a time, get small wins, build towards the big thing. And eventually you'll look back and go, oh, I already did the big thing a month ago. I've been so focused on doing the small things, I surpassed what I thought I could actually do. You know, we're talking about some things in this group, Rachel and I and Rod, and we're talking about a big thing in August. And I mentioned April. I said to Rachel, I said, I know we're talking about this, but I want to talk about what I want to do in January. Like, I've already got goals coming after my goals that are both big, right? And I want you to think that way too. So stack your goals, but build up through the little things to get there. Building habits of winning, it's not a joke. It's not a cliche. It's not just something that you hear us say or in a book. These are principles that actually work. These are principles that you'll read often in other leadership books, right? So I'm imploring you to try the small things, get the small wins, make an effort to move forward and not stagnant. Don't get in your own way. I was coaching a gentleman the other day, and he just is so stagnant in his ways. He's just taking, and never giving. And when I say taking, he's just sucking, kind of like these Monday nights can be. If you're only listening and you're not giving, giving out to your network or giving back to your business the tools that you're getting or learning than you're just taking, right? You have to get out of your own way sometimes and not be stagnant. Don't get stuck there. All right. Moving into the small wins as you start to build those up is have a no quit mentality. Don't quit, even if it's the small things. Even if you have hurdle. I was just dealing with my daughter before I got on the call. So we've got chickens. It's her job to feed it. She got the feeder, took it to the garage because that's where the feed was at tonight. She filled it up. She lifted it up off the ground and the bottom fell out. There was chicken feed all over the garage. She was defeated. I showed her how to clean it up. I helped her clean it up. We got it put back together. I came inside to get my coffee ready for the meeting. I hear the door slam. I hear frustration downstairs. I go down there. What's going on? The bottom fell out again, halfway across the yard in the snow. She's defeated. She quit. She's laying on the couch crying, right? So what do? I pick her up and said, look, you need to find a solution. Those chickens still have to eat tonight. You can't just leave them out there and cry on the couch, right? She was defeated completely. So we talked about solutions. I don't think she was happy about the solution. She's only 9 and she really was defeated. But the point is that you can't just give up. At the end of the day, somebody's got to eat. In this case, my chickens, right? Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your employees. Maybe it's your business partner. Maybe it's your banker that needs the money to be paid back that they loaned you, especially if you're in Silicon Valley right now. So have a never quit mentality. Endure the pain that it takes to get there. Be patient. Work the small wins and have one day at a time. Okay. Your competition's not winning because they're better than you, by the way. Your competition's winning because you gave up. When you look at your competition and if they're ahead of you and you're stagnant, they're winning because you gave up. That's how you see winners in the marketplace. These people aren't any better or different than you are. They've just chosen not to give up on the thing that they're doing. They've chosen to be the best. They've chosen to have all the small wins to get to where they're at. You have the same ability to do what your competitors are doing by just not giving up. This is, it's interesting. As many of you know, I used to race professionally in off-road racing. And off-road racing is a race of attrition. And so this last Saturday, a lot of my friends were racing the famous Mint 400. And we're talking about teams that are spending $300,000-$400,000 in a 400-mile race one weekend. It's kind of a big deal. And a couple of my friends that were favorites to win with these $500,000, race budgets for the weekend, I thought, okay, it's going to come down to a few of these guys. And as I was bouncing in and out of keeping track of who's doing what, first of all, my good friend Ryan Arciero, he's out. He's out in the first lap. There's 4 laps. So he's out. And I'm like, geez, what happened? Well, his driveline broke. Okay. Well, the next, top runner, he's out. Next one, he's out. Next one, he's out. All of a sudden, we've got a race against a guy I've never heard of. I've been doing this in the sport almost 20 years now. Guy that I've never heard of showed up from a different track, different place, is in the lead now. And when he won, because he did win, because it's a game of attrition, it was like history's been made. First professional race this guy's ever done. He won the famous Mint 400. Now, I tried 12 times to win that race. It's not easy. And all these guys with these big budgets, it's not easy. But this guy, Hardin, he never gave up. He just kept going and chipping off one bite at a time. These big budget guys in a no-name truck, no big, monster Red Bull sponsors, just a guy out there with passion out for the win, right? Now, if he would have gave up, all right, if he would have gave up at the starting line thinking, there's no way I'm going to beat these guys, he wouldn't have had a chance. But here he is, the champ. I mean, probably $100,000 this weekend. Not too bad for a first-time professional race. So, attrition and endurance and being patient and not giving up is what's going to get you there in your career and in your entrepreneurial endeavors, whatever it is you're trying to do. Okay. Matter of fact, here's a couple of quick, not stories, but points to mention. Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. He tried to sell his idea 1,010 times, Finally, that 10th time, he got it. 1,010 times. Disney, Walt Disney, he was fired from his first job at the newspaper for not being creative enough. We all know where he ended. Steve Jobs, fired from Apple. We all know they hired him back, right? Created one of the biggest companies in the world. So if you can generate enough small wins, you will get to that successful place that you're aspiring to be. Okay. Here's some ways to get those wins. Expect to be set back. Okay. Expect to be set back. Going back to that race, sometimes something breaks, like my buddy, I said his drive line broke. Now, he got out and fixed it. I think he called the race after he fixed it just so he can get back in. But when I was racing, we'd fix it and then we'd keep going because we knew that attrition's there, and just maybe the other guys would have problems equally to the amount of time we were down, right? Expect the setback. And when we get out to fix something like that, because in off-road racing, you don't have a pit crew that gets to just show up in the middle of the desert where you happen to break. There's nobody out there, literally nobody. You're on your own. You get out of the car, you figure out what the problem is, and you fix it however you can. And for you, those guys that like to laugh about it, duct tape, baling wire, zip ties, whatever, right? You make it work, you get it going, and you continue on. Whenever we got out of my car, I was hustling these guys. My navigator, like, geez, Jim, what's the rush? The rush is every second counts, because if we can get back on the track, maybe somebody else will be down longer than us. Maybe that'll keep us in third, or maybe second, or maybe everybody has a problem and we wind up first. Okay. So expect a setback and work through that setback diligently, one bite at a time with patience, but get back in the race. Set time limits for your disappointments. Everybody is going to have disappointments. We've talked about how hard business is. Business is hard. Being an entrepreneur is hard. Being an employee is hard. Times are hard. Recession's hard. Set limits, though, for those disappointments. Okay. Hey, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to be disappointed for the day, but tomorrow I'm going to pick right back up and I'm going to start fresh and I'm going to move on. Taylor shared her story about her disappointing supplier, and what she wound up finding is somebody better. She found the supplier of the supplier that canceled on her, right? If you can expect the setbacks and you can work through the problem, you're going to come out the other side more than likely better, because you've solved the problem. And if it comes back again, you'll know how to fix it. I like this one. I read this in a book. Manage your blind spots. It's almost like the unexpected, right? You can manage your blind spots. Think the what if, it's kind of that I'm in war mentality. What if this happened? What if the enemy came from this side of the fighting line? What would I do? So manage your blind spots so that if that does occur, you know how to deal with it. Less emotion and more information. Less emotion and more information. It's interesting. You can take 20 minutes and research a topic. Maybe you're going to go in for a job interview, or you're looking for a raise for the next step up, or you're looking to raise some capital, from a new person you don't know much about. You can take 20 minutes and do some research on that topic and be better. And you could have less emotion over what you're trying to do and more information and be more relevant to what you're trying to do. It sounds silly, but so often people don't do any research and come equipped with the information to do a better job, even if it's 20 minutes. Super simple process, but can be done and will lead to a better outcome. Rely on no wake, find a path to progress, right? So when I say no wake, that means, the ripples in the water. Find a path to progress. You can get through those ripples. Don't let the bumps, talking about bumps the other day, don't get stuck in the bumps. You can get through it, right? Here's another interesting thought about long-term successes. Think tomorrow and not yet next year, okay? It's okay to have short-term goals. That goes back to the short wins. A lot of times we just look at the long-term goal and we don't think about what you're going to do tomorrow because we're too focused on the very far future, right? So you've got to have a good combination of both. and then learn what must be learned. It goes back to spending maybe some 20 to 30 minutes on the task to be better at what it is. And then finally, manage your self-talk. What you're saying to yourself when you're alone about those wins or about what it's going to take to win, and push through that self-talk. We can oftentimes talk ourselves out of doing something just through self-talk. I'm not good enough. They're not going to like this. They won't like my speech. They're not going to like my product. They're not going to like my idea. By the time you get to that meeting, you've talked yourself out of winning or getting or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So manage your self-talk and work towards the success that you're looking for. Super important. There's a reason why I left that one for last, because you can defeat yourself before you even get started. And by having positive self-talk, that could be your first win for the day. Wake up, set your goals and your gratitude, generate some wins, and start generating positive self-talk. All right. Think about your questions. Rod, I'm going to come to you in a second. I did want to remind everybody, and you can find this on our website for books to read, Atomic Habits. It was a bestseller. They've sold millions of copies. Probably everybody on here has heard about this book, but how many have picked it up? Because this book is about creating small wins, about creating habits. James Clear, okay? And just to read just briefly, it's on the cover sheet, but it's so compelling. If you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Bad habits repeat themselves, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change, right? You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fail to the level of your systems, right? So what we're trying to give you here on the Syndicate is these tasks on the back end. We're trying to give you systems to create small wins. Your system can look like anything that works for you. You can take every one of these Monday night meetings and pull together your own system, but create systems that win and follow a program. Any program, follow a program that's going to work for you though. And you're going to start seeing a difference through the habits and the discipline that you've created. I love that in class today with my high schoolers, I asked them, is motivation important? And half of them came back and said, yes, but discipline is more important, because with discipline, I don't need to be motivated. And they're so right in that. So think about that when you generate your habits. So Rod, I'm going to go to you.
Thanks, Jim. Really appreciate the reminders again, and the making your bed with, and thanks for looking that up, Bruce. Admiral McCraven, Naval Special Warfare. He gave that address at an MIT graduation in 2020. And it's been a while, and I could be wrong, but I think that he gave that address like within days of his son dying in combat. So think about that. Those of you who have already watched that or heard that address, when you do watch it, he did that under extreme duress, and he still stood up and gave this address. Never once talked about his personal life in this. He was on task and on point. And to me, that made that speech even more special, more weighty, to know the backstory that went into that, because that's definitely somebody of integrity and character. And you probably have to do some digging to find that, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. My kids will ask me sometimes, is that true? And I say, I don't know, I think so. So if it's not, it still works out. But the small wins, it's so important, Jim, and for you to actually sit there and give us point by point little things about expecting the setbacks. To me, that's one of the most important. And I was thinking about, Bruce, I believe you brought this up in a previous call once. You said the difference between a professional and an amateur. And if I am quoting somebody else, you can correct me. I thought it was Bruce. He said, a professional practices, or an amateur practices until they get it right, and a professional practices until they can't get it wrong.
Correct.
And it's a small difference, but it's a huge difference. And those small things are what a professional is focusing on. So Jim, when you were talking about your off-road racing and how you got out and you were concerned about seconds, right? That is because you were looking at it from a professional standpoint, not an amateur standpoint. And I think all of us on this call tonight are in that professional thing. We're not in the minor leagues here. We're launching ourselves into the major leagues. And that means we have to pay attention to the small things. And the second thing that really got my attention was managing the blind spots. And think about this. We can create tools for our blind spots, just like a new car has tools for blind spots. The blind spot detection sensors and the little lights in your mirror and little beeps and sounds. It's things that we know are in our blind spots. So what we need to do is increase our own peripheral vision around our businesses, right? That means sometimes we have to look a little bit more left, a little bit more right. Let's look outside of our lane to make ourselves better and to avoid accidents. So little things like that are so important, and we have to rely on other people. And this is where I'm going to get us right back to where we're at here with this community. In the military, when you had set up a perimeter, you'd settle in someplace, and you had to set up a perimeter, and you had overlapping fields of fire. You never just left one position all by itself. There were always overlapping fields of fire. Those were the people covering your blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
And this group, this community, is covering one another's blind spots. If there's something we failed to look at, if there's something we failed to address, if there's something we could have looked at differently, what is it we can offer? How can we help someone else in this group, in this community, in our neighborhoods? People we do business with, how can we help them improve their business? We need to constantly be looking to up our game by upping other people's games. So great message, Jim. I thought it was awesome. I need to hear that message more and more all the time, because the little things tend to pile up. The little things, the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back. It's not the log, it's the little thing that we let pile up. So cleaning out the debris, I think, is important as well. Great message. Rachel?
Thanks, Rod. Yeah, Rachel, I'm going to come to you in a second.
Yep.
When I'm listening to Rod speak, and again, thinking about the small wins, my desire is that everybody in this group is here to win in your business, or win for your employer or what you're starting. And, I've talked about this before as well. I've been in other groups, and I've been yelled at by those leaders, like, hey, get your shit together and get out there and do this. And this is what you got to be doing. Right. And kind of that cheerleader, rah, rah, rah. But these types of discussions are really what's going to make the difference in your success. When we talk about the blind spots, what that means is that we've looked at, the basics, the hard skills that, I've started a business and I'm showing up to work every day, which most people are satisfied with that. But when you start talking about, hey, let's be prepared for that blind spot in our business plan, right? Let's start looking at this arena. That's what's going to keep you well ahead of the competitors. That's what's going to make you better than the next person in business, is fine tuning this machine. We've got a community here, and I love how Rod puts that, kind of the overlap of protection, so that you can think about all the little things. And that's why we're practically begging for good questions or opportunities to help you, because we genuinely want to be that layer of protection for you, so that the blind spots are gone and you're covered. And when you go to battle, there's a reason why we have a warrior on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, right? When you go to battle, that we've given you enough tools, or we can continue to be that tool for you to be successful. So, Rachel, you want to touch on small wins?
I do want to jump in. I can talk about small wins. I mean, I'm a 75 hard advocate, and I think you're teeing me up to tell everyone that I just finished 75 hard yesterday.
Yes,
and Jim promptly asked me, well, are you drinking wine? And I was like, no, I'm starting phase 1 tomorrow. I'm just going to keep on going. I'm on a routine. I'm on a rhythm. But what I really want to talk about that you mentioned today is you talked about giving. Yeah. And I was listening to that podcast that you and I were talking about the other day, the Andy Frisella one, where he interviews the guy who actually, by the way, I had no idea, used to live in Huntington Beach. Okay. Used to be a gym owner there.
Alex Hormozy,
who I love following his stuff. I think he's great. And he started talking about the 3 types of people in business: the takers, givers and the matchers. And I thought that was so poignant for me to hear that message. And you touched on it tonight too, because the thing that made me feel so good about it is that as we all get more successful, we've all been at some point taken by somebody else who was further along than we were. And it made me feel good. I liked that he was telling personal stories. Just so you guys know, so a taker is somebody who's self-focused and only helps others strategically when it benefits them, right? In the words of Adam Grant, takers have a distinctive signature. They like to get more than they give. And okay, I think we can all kind of figure that one out. Okay, then you've got the givers. Okay, the givers, on the other hand, will help whenever the benefit to others exceeds the personal cost. They're always willing to help. They always say yes, you know who the givers are. And then there's the matchers who strive to preserve kind of that equal balance between giving and getting, and they operate on the principle of things being fair. I think we can all relate to maybe at different points in our careers or in our lives, fitting into one of those three roles. I personally strive to be a matcher. But sometimes in certain relationships, I know I'm the giver. I think we all probably have a taken story at some point in our career, and maybe I won't share that tonight. Maybe I'll share that next time.
We'll hold you to it.
It's an embarrassing one, but I think we all have those and we learn from them. And I'd rather have been taken when I was young and inexperienced in a small scale than bigger and later. So as long as you learn from your lessons, right, then, it hopefully works out okay. And I actually learned through that experience that I never wanted to do that to anybody ever. So I hold myself accountable to that as a learning. So thought that was good that they were talking about it. And I was glad that you touched on it tonight too. So that was great.
Well, what's interesting about being a giver, by the way, especially in your business, is that is the path to success, right? Consumers and partners, they see your heart through your giving, right? Whatever that looks like for you in your business or in your job. We talked a few weeks ago about having a willingness to help when you get on the job, to help others instead of ladder climbing over people that you're giving. So there's a lot of ways that you can look at giving instead of taking. And again, not being the taker, to Rachel's point. It's funny when you've been taken. I remember when I was 17 years old, I helped this guy set up gyms for extra money. His name is Pat. He owes me $90. I don't know why. I still remember that. He owes me $90. He didn't pay me for the last job we did, and he disappeared. And I guess the point of saying that is we don't forget the takers and how we were treated by those people, right? If Pat ever showed up again in my life, that's my first thought when I see Pat is, hey, you owe me $90, dude. Like, could I care about $90? No, but he owes me the integrity of doing a job and not being paid for it, right? And he was willing to take advantage of me. So, when we're creating our businesses or we're working for other people and we have a team, we need to be givers and not be the takers. You'll find it way more satisfying. And by the way, since I've had a big heart of giving, probably most of my time being married to Samantha, we've given a lot. And we're not saying that to get kudos, but it's interesting because sometimes you give and it hurts a little bit, like, ooh, that was a lot. You always are rewarded 10x for that. And you're not sitting there going, man, I wish I didn't give so much. I've never felt that way. As an employer, as a friend, as a neighbor, as a community member, I've never regretted giving. And in business, you'll never regret giving that extra to the customer. Remember when I worked at In-N-Out, for you Californians out there, Arizona, and a few other Western states, when I worked there, if somebody brought their food back, our policy was to refund their money or make them a new one, right? And when you're a newer employee and you're not used to that type of customer service, if you didn't grow up the Nordstrom's way, it's baffling. Like, wait, what do you mean? We have to give their money back? But this guy's probably ripping us off. And guess what? Probably 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 was ripping us off. They would get their food, they'd go eat half of it. They'd bring it back because they're full now, and they'd ask for their money back, and they'd say, "Oh, this had a hair in it," or "No, this isn't cooked all the way." Whatever their excuse was, you knew it was an excuse, and we gave them their money back. And these newer employees would say, "Well, why would we do that?" Well, we do that because we realize if we're willing to give and do the right thing, regardless of the people taking advantage of us, in the long run, we'll be a multi-billion-dollar company, which In-N-Out is, through that type of philosophy, all the way dating back to 1948. Giving, thinking about the small things and giving and having those small wins. By the way, how do I know 1948? Because in 1948 is when they decided that when you drove through their drive-through, you'd start getting a little piece of paper for your lap, because they realized you might drip your hamburger on your lap in your suit in your car, and they were giving you something so that you wouldn't make a mess, right? They have a lifetime of giving, and now they've had a lifetime of success. So, all right, anybody got any questions, or more importantly, business challenges, things that we can work through as a group for the next 15 minutes? Thoughts, looking for something, questions about the new back end of Y.E.S. And I do expect people to jump in there and get everything figured out. Let me open up the chat. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. Taylor, thanks for the compliment. Fred, how's the podcast going? Let me put you on the spot there. And then Bruce, if you're raising your hand, I'll come right back to you.
So interestingly enough, I got to get used to speaking. So it's going amazing. And I think it falls into tonight's, message here with the takers, the givers, and the matchers. We've all, well, I don't know about all of us, but I know that I've surely been taken advantage of. But right now, at this stage in my life, to give back has been tremendous. Some of the gifts that come on the other side of sharing these messages has been unreal. And I think it's probably better than any bonus I've ever got in my life. And I've had some big bonuses in my career. But it's interesting too, because it starts opening up new doors. Just before I got on this call with you guys, I was interviewing another guy from one of the other groups I'm in. And he's going to be our guest tomorrow night on the podcast. Has an amazing story, but he's out of Katy, Texas, in Houston. And but it's just weird how these doors are starting to open. Your network starts to build. As a matter of fact, Red Suit was telling me that you guys are going to be speaking at an event in New York.
That's right.
Just part of the Limitless Society group. But it's interesting. Like, I had such a hard time after this last big loss with my last business. It kind of put a damper on me as an individual, kind of crushed me a little bit. And so, but I made a commitment to myself, all in on me in 23, which I'm going to regain and build that stage again. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn from the lessons that I had before and build up. And then I also wanted to comment on the Alex Hormozi and Andy Frisella podcast, because it was phenomenal. But you see some of the most successful people out there and the trials and tribulations that they've been through. They're no different than the trials and tribulations that we go through. The difference is they didn't quit.
That's right.
In dire straits, they did not quit, and they found their spot. So now, after doing this podcast, and obviously I'm associated with a few different groups, but this network that I'm building is the people that I absolutely 100% choose to be around. And they're a different caliber of people. The people on this call have a different mindset. And it's a big difference from going to a party on the weekend and people talking about politics with no solution. Yeah, I don't want to talk in circles. You know what I mean? So, but being around the right people, your tribe that you want to associate with, that are bringing positive things to the world, that are leaving something better behind than they showed up to, that's what I want to be a part of. And this has been, it's been exactly, I didn't expect it to be that, but it's more than I could have bargained for. And so anyways, obviously you and I have a lot of history, Jim, and you've been a great mentor and just an example. I mean, you lead by example. You're the guy. Every time I turn on my phone, you're accomplishing something else. I'm like, okay, well, am I going to get off my ass? Well, I'm off my ass, getting it done, and it's completely worth it. So to anybody that's contemplating that, the guy that we talked to tonight about he's doing his own great things. But he's like, I've been asked 4 times to be on a podcast. And I go, say no. He goes, but I couldn't say no to you because I watch you online and this and that. And he goes, I feel comfortable. I want to be in that circle with you. So I'm in. So tomorrow night, we're going to record this podcast with Keely Bell, and incredible story. But it's really satisfying, and I think that, my philosophy in life has always been give, work hard, and the money will come. And it has for many, many years. There was a big hiccup along the way, but at the same time, if I give up, then it's all for naught. But if I don't give up and I continue to move forward, then it's going to pay 10x, just like, not that that's my expectation, but in my heart, it's already paid 10x. I can tell you, I'll get a phone call, a message, a DM, and it lights me up in a way that I never expected. So anyways, that's my share for tonight. And I want to thank you guys, for being there and sharing your stories. And of course, Jim, you and I go way back. So I appreciate that relationship.
Brett, I appreciate your comments and compliments, by the way. And like we said, or I said in the lesson is, set a time limit for your disappointments. And it looks like you've done that. 23 is your year. I appreciate you pointing out too, you listen to a lot of the same people I listen to. There's failures across the board. It's how we deal with them. It's how we not give up, never quit mentality, because that's what the others are going to do. Right. And that's why we talk a lot about these soft skills. It's also why, Fred, when you see me, what am I trying to accomplish now, is because I'm seeking to achieve, better than, right? I'm setting my own goals and creating my own challenges so I can always stay sharp. That's how I operate. And I hope a little bit of that rubs off on people through my actions and what I'm doing. So thank you again for that. Bruce, did you have something?
Yeah. I wanted to add one thing real quick. Sorry. You see some of the most successful podcasters or influential people. Ed Milet and Lewis Howes just put one out there. I think it was last week. And I was on a walk and listening to it. But one of the things that came out, and I heard it come up a couple times since, is that enjoying the journey, because the journey is never over. It's like a constant in your life to get better and improve. But Ed Milet said it the best. I mean, the guy's a billionaire, doesn't need to ever work again in his life, and he could go hide in the shadows and enjoy his life and his family. But he's like, he goes, by me letting go of some of the things that I thought were, I don't know, challenging, enjoying the process. He goes, enjoying this process. And Lewis Howes finished his sentence before he could complete it. He goes, it opens up more doors. Mm-hmm. He goes, so now I'm doing it from a place, out of gratitude and appreciation. And he goes, it opened up more doors than I could ever anticipate and made me even more wealthy because of the places it's taken me. So this gratitude, it gets used a lot, but gratitude is so important, for your everyday operation, to yourself and to others. So anyways, that was my last little tidbit I wanted to share because I thought it was super important.
I appreciate that. There's a reason why gratitude comes up a lot and helping others, right? So Bruce, what do you got? You're on mute. And then we'll go to Samantha after Bruce.
All right. Hey, thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
A share and then a question. So Fred, one of the things I teach my students or tell my students is, and I think it's wise to think about it, we fear failure, and that's a terrible idea. You should embrace failure. Not that you want to fail, but failure gives you a path forward. And if you combine that with the idea of eliminating your emotional response to it, when I teach people, like, for example, when they're doing something wrong, I ask them, is what you're doing good or bad? And they'll tell me it's bad. And I'm like, no, it is a response. And if you don't like that particular behavior or that particular result, what are you going to do to change that? And the minute you divorce your emotion from it, then it gets a whole lot easier. And it's like, then you have to make a choice. Either I'm going to do X to achieve this, or I'm not. And then when you talk about true personal accountability, then it's back on that person. So that's just something I've observed. So food for thought. Jim, explain what Jadari is. I don't understand. And, knowing that I fix computers with a hammer or the expenditure of one round of ammunition, what exactly is it? Because I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Yeah, I'll give you the quick answer. Then we're going to go to Samantha and Taylor before we run out of time today too. Bruce, what it is it's a platform, a back-end platform that we pay for to build out our assets on. So our assets are everything that you'll see forward facing on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. So if you go to Y.E.S membership and you log in and you find yourself, that we own that asset now, right? We've paid for that real estate to build our platform on. Jadari is owned by a private entity that we align with, right? From our policies and politics. We know that they're not going to cancel us if we start talking about your gun training, right? So for whatever that means to anybody else on here, we believe in the owners of this back-end programming that we've licensed out from them to build out our business platform on. So that's the short of it. Once you dive in, you're able to see how you can build it out to fit your own needs and for what you're trying to do. It would be perfect for your members or your participants on learning how to shoot, right? Because you can create critical tasks every day. You can build a community and documents. You can do all the things that we're doing to help enhance your training session. So hopefully that helps. If you have any struggles getting your information in there, reach out to Rachel and she can talk to you about some of the dynamics as well. If you're looking to do something there. So Samantha, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
I actually don't have a question. My thing, and it's super quick, is I just wanted to tell Fred how happy I am for your podcast. I got to listen to my first one the other day on my walk for 75 hard. I want to say it was Standing in the Face of Adversity, I think is which one I listened to. But anyways, I was just super proud of you. I know you have to get out of your comfort zone to start new things, and you're winning, you're owning it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam. You know, what's cool is I was walking through the room and I saw her phone sitting on the counter and she had the logo from your podcast was up. And, you know, it's a good show. I've listened to it and I'm enjoying it. But what's cooler than that is we're all in this community here. You know, one day we're all going to have, or at least the ladies are going to have Taylor's product around your waist, you know, and other things that we all provide. And that's the point about building a community that we support each other in our endeavors, and then we can all help spread the word. So Taylor, go ahead with your question. Just unmute.
Howdy. Well, hi. First of all, thank you, Jim, for that talk. Honestly, it was very timely for me, and I wish I hadn't have been making dinner or I would have been taking more notes. So I know my dad always takes notes. He'll have to send them over later on. Also, while we're on the topic, I'll second what Sam said about Fred, your podcast. I've been working my way through your current episodes and really appreciating the content. So thank you for that, Fred. My question, and I'm just going to throw it out there to anybody who might have more online like shop expertise than I do. We're launching, let's see, we have a gun show that we're working, not this coming weekend, but the following. And then the weekend after that is when we've scheduled our online launch. So my question has to do with social media, Instagram in particular. I'm trying to kind of decide when is the best time to actually share my product, like show it, because I kind of want to give a little bit of time for people to actually see it and create a desire for it, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to get your 2 cents, whoever can weigh in on that, if you have any.
I'm going to give you my 2 cents, but I'd like to defer to Rachel as well, being our marketing expert partner here. And I'm glad that you asked the question. I like build up. Right. You're talking about, you know, maybe having a live show where people can touch it. And the other thing that gives you the opportunity to do at the show, right? You'll have product at the show to sell.
Yes.
Okay. So what that allows you to do is as people are walking up to your booth, just say, hey, look, you're the first. Okay. If you want to be the first one to get this, we're going live tomorrow online or after the weekend online. You're going to be the first to get this product. And that's the show price. From here on out, we're online. I might be back next year. Who knows? But it kind of helps stimulate that sale a little bit and does build some momentum around what you're doing live in person, a place where you can collect cash right then and there. Right. And because you're the owner, You have the ability to interact and sell people on this product, and you can take those quick testimonials and parlay that into your marketing, whatever it is you're going to push on Instagram. Maybe you've made nice with a couple of these customers, and hey, can I get your picture with it on or using it or whatever? Now all of a sudden you've got some content for your social media for when you do that launch. And then that way, when they're finally looking at it online, they're like, oh, wow, there's all kinds of different people that are using this. So there's no better salesperson than you, right? So leverage that, build that out, and turn that into, the virtual you when you move on. So I'll let Rachel answer it in her way, but those are my quick thoughts.
All right. I love everything that Jim said, and that all works for me. I like it. There's one other thing that I would add to that. If you can, I would try to do some sort of a pre-sell before you get there. I don't know if you can find out, like, people, like, you're going to be at a show, right? Like, people have bought tickets to this thing. Like, maybe you can talk to the event organizer, like find out, like, if there's some way that, like, if they're emailing people before the show, be like, hey, like, I wanted to offer a special thing. Like, if you've bought your ticket before now, like, stop by, I'll give you a sticker, or like, whatever, like some sort of hook to capture them so that they know to expect you there and to look forward to seeing you. Hey, want to let you know, like, as the owner, I'm going to be there. It's very rare that I'm there. I'm happy to blah, blah, make them feel special. Because right now, I mean, you're going to be there. Why not nurture those relationships before you even get there? That's one of the things that we do in advertising. Like, my clients who've bought in Super Bowl commercials before, 90% of the equity is already been achieved before the thing even airs during the game, because it's all about the hype and the pregame and the people that can, like, think about the product before, so they can buy it before the game, right? Like the beer or the chips or whatever it happens to be, right? So try to think about that. And then also, you need to think about your post event. What is your follow-up going to be? It was great to meet you. You automate it. It doesn't have to be personal, but it has to be timely. So within 24 hours, you need to follow up. Within 3 days, you need to follow up. Like, what's your drip campaign after the event? But I love it. It's great. You're getting out there. I actually have, you guys know I love to give homework. I want to know what everybody is reading right now. And I want to encourage everybody, once you log in to the Y.E.S membership portal, share with us what you're reading. Like, one book. We just updated the book reference library on there, so you'll see a lot of the books that we recommend. We'll share what we're currently reading, and that would be awesome.
Good.
Always looking for good books.
Good homework, Rachel, especially since you and I just knocked through a whole bunch of books on 75 Hard. And Taylor, I know the show that you're going to be at, and I think what you've done, the last couple of months is create a little bit of buzz through your Instagram reels and stuff like that. I think that you will have an opportunity, if you tighten those up a little bit, to say, hey, look, I'm launching at the show. You've been watching me, the story, share it amongst your friends in the sheriff's department, whatnot. But you have an opportunity to do a little bit of what Rachel's saying. Rachel, it's still rural Montana, so I'm not sure about, how much we can do, but I would be excited to go to the show and see you and see your product in person. And I know where you live. Okay. So clearly what you're doing is working on me, and I look forward to being there and seeing that live. So, all right, Rod, we'll grab you real quick before we shut this thing down. Yeah.
Just real quick, wanted to mention to Taylor, while you're at that show, be sure and capture emails or business cards from everybody that passes through. So it's one thing to be handing out. When you're at a show like that, you always want to give, right? But make sure you're getting as well. When you get a chance to walk around, get other people's cards, get people who stop at your booth, get their email, see if they're interested, so that, they may not be interested today, but they may have somebody on their Christmas list that you can, send it to in November, so make sure you're capturing as much information as you can while you're at the show. And that's all I've got.
Okay, look, there's a question that came up. Taylor's asking Bruce's Instagram page so that she can check it out. And you guys should collaborate, by the way. Bruce teaches, how to use firearms, and you have a product that includes firearms. So when you get into the Y.E.S backend program, there is a spot on your profile to put your Instagram and your Snapchat and your WhatsApp and your Facebook and all those things. You will be doing yourself a disservice if you don't fill that out. If you don't have an intro video that just gives us a little bit about you, as this thing starts to grow, your network can grow with it. If you don't put in the time and the effort to use the tools that we put there for you, you're not going to get the value out of it. We don't have a policy in place. I don't want this to turn into a group where we're selling each other. We're not here to sell one another. We're here to lift each other up. And by the way, if you've got a product that I like, I'm going to buy it, but I don't want to be pitched on it. But at the same time, we can all lift each other up and help each other. And you will see on this new program, it's super easy to follow somebody just like you would on any other social media platform, but there's places for all the links. And I would really recommend that you follow the community members here and support them and vice versa. There's one last thing. I'm going to close with this. And Fred, I'm glad that you brought this up, talking about the journey. Okay. Don't forget the journey along the way. I see Zane on the call, and Zane is related to a client that I had for 3 years. And, you know, it was, at the end of the day, it was a job. It was a client. But the journey I had with this client was a spectacular journey. And it's over now, and I still have a relationship with this person. And had I not been mature enough to look around and enjoy that journey, it would have just been another job. So, Fred, it's a really good point to make. And, you know, I'm looking at the backgrounds of everybody that's live here, you know, with your videos. We all have pretty damn good lives. You know, we're not suffering. We're not, you know, sleeping on a mattress in the back of our business like Frisella did when he was young. Our journeys are all pretty damn good. So enjoy the journey. Know that there's going to be tough times. Don't forget to look around. I know I'm enjoying the journey. I look forward to, I'm on the Y.E.S platform every day. I keep it open on my phone. You can, Rachel, send instructions on how to have the little icon on your phone. And I'm looking forward to seeing your stories, seeing you populate it, see how you utilize that tool. Fred, you should have your podcast on there, as well as you, Bruce, and talk about who your guests are, what's coming up, what are you learning? Get those books up there. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I look forward to next week and more news to come. I'm going to start making announcements on there, things that I'm doing and how we can get involved with each other. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good week.